Good morning. It is Tuesday, the 18th of November, 2025. Welcome to one and all. You're watching Morning Brew on Politics Social. I am Graham Hughes. We have in the chat, we have Diz, we have Martin, Paula Thomas. Got Martin again. We've got Philip. We've got Pete. We've got P-U-A-T. We have got Saz in there, Sarah, Ernie. How you all doing, everyone? How's it going? If you'd like to join our friends in the chat this morning, all you need to do is head over to that big juicy subscribe button, give it a tickle, and wait for approximately 1 minute, and then you'll be able to join the chat. But don't be a troll, because if you're a troll, we're going to mute you and boot you. Anyway, so today we're going to be talking about, Labour's plan for immigration. I know we've done immigration 3 days in a row now, asylum seeking, whatever. But I'm trying to say it's a slightly different angle on it today. And I'm going to be talking about what happened in Denmark, because it's clear that the Labour people went over to Denmark and went, what happened here then? Made some notes and came home. So we're going to be looking at the Danish-style asylum system, why Labour want it, why it might work, why it probably won't. Let's get into it. So, Shabana Mahmood, our new Home Secretary, has unveiled a plan to unveil a Danish-style asylum model. Denmark's Social Democrats, a centre-left party, adopted a zero asylum seekers approach in 2019, focusing on deterrence, faster removal, limiting permanent settlements, restricting family unification, and making returns easier. Labour insists that the UK must become less attractive to irregular arrivals, echoing Danish language about negative branding. The political context is everything. Refuck is currently leading the UK national polls, and Farage is very much dictating the immigration narrative. Labour strategists see Mette Fredriksen's as proof that centre-left parties can win by moving right on asylum. This is clearly an attempt to neutralise Farage's core political offer that Labour is soft on borders. Labour are borrowing Denmark's political strategy, not just its policy. And the appeal of Denmark for Labour is partly because Fredriksen's hardline helped collapse the Danish far right, and Labour hopes the same could happen here. So let's get into it. So Denmark dramatically reduced asylum claims after 2015-2019 through harsh deterrence policies. This included confiscating asylum seekers' valuables, sound familiar? Limiting rights to work and study, sound familiar? Tightening family reunification laws, and public messaging explicitly designed to make Denmark appear unwelcoming. Denmark used departure centres for rejected claims, which have been criticised by EU inspectors for the conditions inside. And these are prison-like facilities where rejected asylum seekers are held with limited movement, designed to encourage voluntary return. And this is something that is quite a bit of a departure from what we see in the UK at the moment. Denmark relies overwhelmingly on voluntary returns, not mass deportations. Voluntary returns are cheaper, they're easier legally, and they avoid physical enforcement. And to be honest, like when it turned out that guy was the estate prisoner who was going to be deported, and when he finally got deported, they gave him 500 quid to just settle down and just piss off. And I was like, it was worth the 500 quid, because otherwise, he's going to launch another appeal, and that's going to cost our justice system 50 grand or 100 grand. Once you got the court time, the court costs, the judge, the clerks, the magistrates, the jury, whatever the fuck you need, those costs add up. 500 quid seems to me a bargain. And this is what Denmark do quite regularly. They give people money and say, here you go, here's some money, sling your hook. Denmark offers thousands of pounds, tens of thousands of kroner, for people to return back where they came from, which has political downsides, obviously, because you got the likes of their equivalent of the Sun saying, "What are you doing? What are you doing giving you asylum seekers money?" But on the other hand, it is the cheapest and most effective way of getting rid of people whose claims have been rejected. Now, look, I'm kind of like at the stage, I understand why Labour are so scared of Nigel Farage. Looking at the polls, it would be weird if they weren't. And I don't really have a problem so much with people who have had their asylum claim rejected being chucked out the country in the cheapest possible way. And if that means bunging a couple of grand in their pocket so they fuck off, okay. Because like I say, dragging it out through appeals process costs a lot more money. So, Denmark also rejects fewer applications, but makes staying long-term more difficult. The Danish reforms didn't increase refusal rates dramatically, so it's not like they were suddenly saying no to everybody, but they eroded the pathway to permanent residence and citizenship, which is clearly what they're doing or going to try to do in the UK. I'm going to really stress this because there's a very good chance that there's going to be a massive backbench rebellion and a lot of this stuff is going to get watered down. But the whole, you've got to wait 20 years for citizenship or permanent residency even, that for me is, a bit much because as I talked about yesterday, one of the most cruel things you can do to a human is give them uncertainty. It's why, the older generation who knew they had a job for life and knew that they'd be able to afford their mortgage, that those certainties that the younger generations don't have anymore in general, like that's something that people overlook a lot about how much of a mental strain that puts on younger people. They're not knowing if they're still going to have a job tomorrow. And all of the problems that we're facing today, and I don't want to go off on a mad tangent here, but they're all linked to Thatcher. The fact there's no houses because she sold them all off. The fact there's no public utilities because she sold them all off. The fact that, people can't get a house, people can't afford to get on the train, people can't afford to live their life. And also the unions. She neutered the unions. And so people can't be assured that they'll keep a job. They could be sacked tomorrow. This is why the renters' rights and the workers' rights that are coming in under Labour are so important. But obviously they're not making a big deal about this. And I cannot believe that yesterday, when a landmark piece of good Labour policy, absolutely brilliant, excellent Labour policy that will improve the lives of hundreds of thousands of people, was just kind of swept under the carpet while they wanged on about immigration. This is Labour comms to a T. If the story that I'm referring to about reselling tickets for gigs costing anything more than the face value of the ticket will be made illegal. Finally. And this is one of my little pet projects. What is it? My pet peeve, I should say. Rather than a project. My pet peeve is the fact that people buy up all these tickets for all these gigs on the day they come out and the hour they come out because they stealth it. They've got ways of doing it. They've got multiple credit cards to different addresses, so they can buy loads and loads of tickets, and then they buy them all, and then they sell them at 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, 10 times the price, and just sit at home and make money. That's not a job. That's just being evil. That's just being evil for cash. And Labour have got this new policy coming in to make it illegal. Did you hear about it? Hardly anyone heard about it. It was very much down the political agenda yesterday because it was completely overshadowed by Mahmood and the announcement about what they're going to do about asylum seekers. I mean, yeah. So I don't know. I find Labour absolutely hopeless at the moment, and even when they try to do stuff, which is a good thing to do, like with the renters reform, like with the workers' rights, like with sorting out the ticket touts, like with making it illegal for pornography to show choking. There's a horrific story on The Guardian this morning that shows that half of young people have either experienced or done that during sex because they think it's normal, because they see it in porn all the time. And they're like, oh, that's what you do. No, 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 no. Just absolutely no. Anyway, let's get back to Denmark, okay? So Denmark benefits from being a small, largely homogeneous welfare state with tight borders and low population density. It helps Denmark manage arrivals differently to the UK, which is much larger, more diverse, and more globally connected. People don't fly around the world via Copenhagen, but they do fly around the world via Heathrow. And that's something that we've got to understand and appreciate, that a lot of people who are coming here who are not, arrive irregularly, or however you want to say it, they actually arrive on a plane, a lot of people. They'll be changing planes in Heathrow and they'll just leg it out the airport. And then they'll say, right, that's it, I want asylum here. I know people who have done that, not necessarily in the UK, but in other countries, where they've been flying somewhere from a state where you're not normally allowed out, and they managed to get out on the back of a chess tournament or something that they were representing the country for. And when they get into the airport, they just leg it out the airport and just go, right, I need asylum now. But one of the issues that we have in this country up to this point is there are so few safe legal routes to claiming asylum in this country. Something that Labour say they're going to address. And if this bill does get stripped down to its bare bones by the backbenchers, which very much might happen, I'm really, really hoping that it's going to be just the safe routes, pretty much, that stays intact. Whereas the rest of it, the more cruel stuff about taking people's jewellery, the more cruel stuff about not giving refugees certainty. I guess the whole certainty thing, it does date back to the 1980s, and I guess I've never lived life with that certainty. I kind of envy the older generations who had that. And this is interesting because I was talking to a friend of mine many moons ago, who was from West Germany. His wife was from East Germany, or grew up in East Germany. Same sort of age as me. And he was telling me that people in East Germany, the one thing that they liked about living under the cosh of the Stasi, I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but was the certainty. You knew there was going to be a job. You knew that you were going to get money at the end of the day, or the end of the week, or the end of the month. You knew you'd have enough to buy your groceries. You knew you wouldn't be made homeless. And that certainty was very reassuring. And you're seeing it in the demographics now, that the uncertainty wrought by liberal policies and also neoliberalism, I know they're two different things, but they both add up to general uncertainty. And some people like that. Some people thrive off the uncertainty. Some people enjoy it almost, but a lot of people don't. And as you get older, a lot of people retreat from it, from the uncertainty. They want certainty in their lives. That's why this government and the governments before have gone on about the triple lock for pensioners, because they want to give pensioners the certainty that they'll have X amount of money each week. They know it's a vote winner. But also, it's why AfD do very well in East Germany. Check out on the maps of Germany who votes what, and nearly all, not all, but the lion's share of votes for the Alternative for Deutschland are in the East. Why? Because those people are craving certainty. They want certainty, and they believe that going back to this past where they half remember from their childhood where things were certain is a good thing. And don't forget as well, a lot of older people in this country as well, and I'm going to have to bring out my not all boomers before I get shouted at by someone, but a lot of older people, not all boomers, but they want to go back to the certainties that they had as children. These are kids who grew up when they were still rationing. You knew you were going to get a pound of sugar a week, because it was rations. That's how much you could get. And that certainty is the opposite almost of the paralysis of choice, choice paralysis, where you go on Netflix and there's just too many things to choose from and you end up choosing nothing. But I think that uncertainty is cruel. I think that, some people don't necessarily want certainty, and that's fine, but at least the option should be there. Yeah, a lot of liberal policies on both sides of the political spectrum in recent years, in the last 40 years, 50 years, have done away with that certainty that maybe our parents' generation or our grandparents' generation knew certainty in a way that we just don't these days. There is no such thing as a job for life. Young people cannot afford a home. They're living vicariously. Vicariously? No, precariously. Not vicariously. Get me big words mixed up there. They're living precariously, especially if you're renting. You're on a part-time job, or you're on a job, a 0-hour contract job. These things are difficult. 0 hours contract, you're ill. You don't get any money. You don't get any holiday pay. You don't get any benefits at all. You get pregnant, you don't get maternity leave. You don't get paid maternity leave. It's nothing for you. You're on a 0-hour contract. So yeah, Graham, you're spot on. The reason I've lived in my flat for 11 years was because it was stable, or so I thought. I don't know where I'm going to be living in a few months' time. I'm really sorry to hear that, Sarah. I know you're having real problems with your living arrangements at the moment. And yeah, it is, as Tony's saying, a horrible situation, He's talking about Labour ceasing to exist and destroying their reputation. I read the UKIP manifesto and impressed with the focus on family, community, country. Really interesting. Well, yeah, that's something that Labour should be doing. They should be understanding the things that are getting through to people that aren't nasty, that the likes of Farage and UKIP and all that lot are coming out with. They talk about family, they talk about communities. And that's another thing when we talk about certainty. Back in the day, people go to church on a Sunday. And I'm not saying we've all become religious and become all happy clappers or something, but it was a chance for the community, whether it was the village or the suburb, or people in that parish coming together each week and finding out what's going on and having that human connection. And we're becoming more and more atomized. We're becoming more and more. It's weird in a world where we've become more connected than ever. We've also become more disconnected because we're not seeing each other in person, and we need that. We need that human interaction, and it's just not there anymore. That's another certainty that's been taken. Your group of friends, and Brexit as well. I mean, that's taken the certainty of family life. You've got so many people who have lost members of their family, not through death, but through them having to leave the country because they didn't have settled status, or because they couldn't afford to have a foreign spouse living here. Split up families, dads who they have already seen on Zoom. All this kind of, again, it's uncertainty. But the thing is, uncertainty breeds fear, and fear gets people to vote for the far right every time. It's like a cause and effect. We've talked about the vicious circle so many times on this channel. It's a way that it works. So anyway, but yeah, it's we'll talk about the key differences between Denmark and the UK. The first one is the population, which I've mentioned. But it's 6 million versus like 67 million. I mean, we're like 10 times the size of them. And we have far greater migration flows. Denmark's the size of Yorkshire. Give some kind of representation there. Actually, let me just double check on that figure. Yorkshire population. 5.6 million. Yeah, it's about the population of Yorkshire, okay? The UK's numbers are large, not larger because Britain's too welcoming, because a country of 67 million in Europe's, with a language that is spoken as a second language by more people than any other in the world. We have more demand. Who speaks Danish? Hands up watching this. Who speaks Danish? Do you have any Danish people in the chat? Hands up who learnt Danish in school. Go on. But also there's the fact that Denmark is a land-connected country in the Schengen area. It's also a signatory to the Dublin Agreement. It's surrounded by countries that share similar asylum systems like Germany and Sweden. The UK is an island, meaning irregular routes, small boats are highly visible and politicized, and it changes public perception and media coverage massively. That what the media's done, they've looked what happened in Australia, because they 20 years ago were demonizing people coming across in small boats from East Timor, from Indonesia, from Papua New Guinea over to Australia, and they were saying, oh, these people, they're bringing the plague, they're bringing evil, they're bringing crime. This is a rhetoric that the right use all the time about this conflation between asylum seekers and crime, which just isn't there in the statistics. In fact, asylum seekers are less likely to commit crimes than native-born Britons. But the way it played out in Australia, the government panicked. They set up this detention facility on Nauru, which I actually visited when I was in Nauru. It was in ruins, which has apparently been set up again now because they keep on having this Nauru deterrent. We'll send you off to Nauru, which is basically being sent to this dry island on the equator that has fucked its own economy and its own ecology. As a kind of like canary in the coal mine for the rest of the world to see. It's like a microcosm of global warming on a small island nation of Nauru. But yeah, it just takes me back. There was a few little cartoons in my head that will always stay there. And one of them was about 20 years ago. I think it was in one of the Aussie newspapers or something. And I remember seeing it when I was there. It might have been in one of the British, it might have been in the Guardian, I can't remember. Anyway, so it was all these protesters on the beach with signs up saying, stop the boats. Sound familiar? No to asylum seekers. Australia's full. It's the lowest population density of anywhere in the world, bar the Sahara Desert, but whatever. But yeah, Australia's full. And then there's two Aboriginals standing there, and one saying to the other, "Oh, wish we thought of that." But yeah, so yeah, look, Denmark and Britain, very different countries. In Denmark, most of the irregular migrants are visa overstayers, 80%. And in the UK, actually, the number of visa overstayers also dwarfs the number of people coming over in boats massively. The UK debate is focused on a single route, whereas Denmark's is more focused on overstayers. Now, the difference here is the boats are a visible thing, right? You can get pictures of a group of people on a boat, and you can get Nigel Farage to go down to the White Cliffs of Dover and point at boats. You can go out on a dinghy and point at boats. How do you point at a group of overstayers? Because they don't all move around as a team. There's no single vehicle that contains a load of visa overstayers. So Denmark's got one up on us on that respect, but also Denmark has a smaller labour shortage, but it's arguably got a larger sort of political allergy to immigration, whereas the UK has massive labour shortages across social care, agriculture, hospitality, the NHS. In fact, Spain is probably a better model for the UK to look at, because they're building legal pathways to fix long-term demographic decline in the whole thing that we've talked about a lot, which is that there's an older generation, there's a lot more older people than there are younger people, because we have a declining birth rate in this country. We have had for decades now. And then we've got the fact that Denmark has a low immigration historically and a more homogeneous national identity. The UK has a post-imperial, multi-ethnic society where millions of people around the world, in fact, over 1 billion people, well over 1.5 billion people, probably about 2 billion people in the world have historic family and community ties to the UK. I'm just going to look that up. How many people do you reckon in the Commonwealth? It's got to include India, and that's 1.4 million now, is it? A billion, is it? How many people in the Commonwealth? Let's have a look. Oh, fuck me. I was way out. 2.7 billion people. My friends, you wonder why people want to come to the UK. It's because more than 1 in 3 people who live on this planet right now have some kind of historic, cultural connection with the UK. They are here because we were there. It's worth remembering, worth sticking in your pipe and smoking it. Not that I appreciate smoking, but it's just an expression. But yeah, a Danish style model when it comes to dealing with asylum seekers might collide quite violently, I don't know, with the lived reality of Britain, of the country that we live in, and the historical, cultural factors that have shaped Britain into the country that it is today, and geographical factors as well. Don't forget, so because all these other countries are signatories to the Dublin Agreement, they can deport asylum seekers who have already applied for asylum in another country in Europe. They can be deported back to that country, right? As part of the Dublin Agreement. We've pulled out of that. And if you look at where Britain is geographically, it is last chance saloon. Okay, so you've come across from Eritrea, you've tried to apply for asylum in Spain or Italy or France or Switzerland or anywhere, right? And they've said no. So what do? You can't apply in France if you've already applied in Switzerland because they're both signatories to the Dublin Agreement. So they'll just say no, we've already told you no. But they can have another chance at getting asylum by coming to Britain. So the fact that we're not part of the Dublin Agreement, and also our geography, makes us very attractive, because it's not like people can come across, walk across a border and then can be told at the border post, no, go back, which happened to me sometimes when I was traveling. I got to the border post and they were like, no, we're not going to let you in. And I was like, oh shit, why not? No, because you need a visa. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go and get a visa then. Back off to fucking Rabat, 2,000 kilometers through the Sahara Desert to get a fucking visa, and then 2,000 kilometers back through the Sahara Desert to get back to the border post. That's happened to me, but it's a lot easier on a land border to do that, right? And I know land borders are harder to patrol because you've got a fence, got a wall, but at the same time, people are trying to cross a particular border crossing or near a border crossing. It makes it a lot more difficult. To do that. And in the UK, people arrive on the shore or get into trouble in the water. The RNLI have to pick them out of the water. They have to. It's their moral obligation. It's their legal obligation. They have to. That's what their charity is set up for. Otherwise, why would we give money to them? They're there to help people who are in distress at sea. And so they're back on. They're on dry land. Maybe a bit wet and cold, but they're on dry land. We can't turn them around and march them back over, can we? We just can't. So yeah, there are very different physical factors and geographical factors that need to be taken into account. And the big one is the fact that we are an airport. We have airports like Heathrow mainly, where people change planes from everywhere. They come from the Middle East, change planes in Heathrow, fly off to the Americas, fly, where they come from Africa, they change planes in Heathrow and fly somewhere in Europe. This happens a lot. And yeah, some people will abscond, some people will leg it. Most people who stay, are here, not illegally, but, are here and they shouldn't be. I don't want to use the word illegal because no human is illegal. But yeah, people who have outstayed their visas, which British people do all the time. British people do that in Europe now because we're not part of the EU. They do it in Australia, they do it in New Zealand, they do it in America, they do it in Canada, they do it all the fucking time. They do it in Thailand. But yeah, and here's the thing, like we talk for a moment. So one thing that I would like to bring up that I think actually where things might work in our favor, looking at Denmark. So I'm not saying the Denmark model is completely shit and we shouldn't even consider it, because there's a couple of things that I think would work. One is paying people to fuck off, right? The other is the fact that Denmark has shaped its policies, its immigration policies, its asylum seekers policies around and within the European Convention of Human Rights. And the Labour want to now narrow the interpretation of family life under the European Convention of Human Rights. But the UK's court culture, the media environment, and the constitutional system are different. And any tightening of these rules, are they tightening of human rights, or is it sort of loosening of human rights laws, aren't they? These loosening of human rights, the government's obligations when it comes to human rights, are going to be contested a lot more in this country. And it's another thing where I think Labour's taking a wrong approach by sort of attacking the European Convention of Human Rights about this. They should be able to say, look, there's only been 29 cases in the last 46 years of anyone taking a case for asylum that far to the Court of Human Rights. and we won half those cases, and we deported them anyway. It's just, yeah. But I'm going to just jump into the chat for a moment. By the way, the goal is working again. So if anyone wants to jump in with a super chat, you've got until what time? You've got until 10 o'clock to. Oh, hang on. No, I didn't start the goal. What? Why? I don't know what's happening with the super chat here. Oh, there we go. Got it going. All right, it's on for an hour. So you've got till 10:30. If you want some confetti, you can have some confetti. I'll give you some confetti. I'll give you loads of confetti if you want some. Ernie says, it's amazing that the Brexiteers claim Remainers undermined the project, but they did more to bulls it up than anyone else. Only they can never accept their own faults. That is very true. Sean says, an Aussie came over this summer. He thought the UK was all concrete by the sounds of the press. He couldn't believe how much room we have. Yes. Pete says, I'm amazed how big it was. By the amount of dead rabbits or squirrels on the roads, can't remember which. Wales has an abundance of the other one. Diz, why single me out and ask me that? He clearly wasn't asking me out of curiosity. Look at the speaker, read my comment out. Is this your channel? If you ask me to leave, I will. No, Tony, stick around, mate. You can have a little bit of debate. Just don't be disrespectful. And that goes for people being disrespectful to others as well. Pete says, Martin, if you get lucky, you get the odd road deer too. It would be illegal to put you in a boat and butcher it in your garage, or so I'm told. Pete, come on, Jesus, don't be killing deers for Christ's sake. The question was joined for me. The reason why he didn't answer you is confused about what Diz was asking. What's being asked? What's being asked? Scotland is sounding better and better. Room for one more. Ha, says Gallifrey Wren. Yeah, I told you already. Like, Scotland's only an hour up the road for me. It's 24-hour fast march if I have to run. I've got my plan. I've got my plan for when England falls. I'm going to Scotland. I've got my ginger colouring. I can pull off a terrible Scottish accent. I reckon I can do it. I just sort of mumble. I just mumble like, and that sounds more like a pirate, doesn't it? I'll have to work on that. I'm going to pass. I pass as a Scot. But I do have a Scottish first name, so that helps. I spell it wrong for the Scots, but whatever. Just Hannah says, Labour's capitulation to the far right is embarrassing. They might as well have no blacks, no Irish, no dogs, no Irish as the next campaign slogan. Yes, just Hannah. I kind of agree with you on that. So anyway, so let's talk about why Labour seems to think that the Danish model might work. There's political optics. It's all about looking strong. Labour wants to block Farage's strongest attack line. The Danish Social Democrats increased their vote share after moving to the right on immigration. Labour believe copying that playbook can stop reflux rise. Deterrence might reduce channel crossings that the UK appear to be hard to stay in. Labour argue fewer people would try to cross. Denmark's asylum applications did fall by 1/3 after the deterrence measures were introduced. But here's the thing, right? Let's say 100,000 people turned up on a small boat over a given year. Okay, a third of them, they stop a third of them. Labour stop a third, and there's still 66,000 people coming across on boats. That's still boats coming over every day. There might be only 2 boats a day instead of 3. But the tabloids aren't going to give a fuck about that. The people living in Kent with the binoculars going, ooh, immigrants, aren't going to care about that, are they? It's not enough. But I've got a solution that can stop people coming over in boats completely, which is, again, grow tired of saying these things, safe routes, asylum processing centre in Calais, rejoining the Dublin Agreement. Those 3 things, boop, 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 no more boats. 0. Get rid of them all. Not a third, not 2/3, but 3/3. All of them. And then also there's the fact that voluntary returns are cheaper. Denmark's shift from enforcement to voluntary returns cut costs significantly. The UK Home Office spends around £15,000 per enforced returns versus £3,000 for voluntary ones based on 2013 data. Labour might want to replicate Denmark's financing model, although they will get shit about it from the newspapers. Guarantee in a few weeks' time you'll see asylum seeker given $5,000 to fuck off. Rah, 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 rah. And it's like, yeah, because that cost a fraction of what it would have been to get them to go non-voluntarily. Viper Scott, thank you very much for the £2 super chat to start the goal and helped us get confetti. Yay! Thanks very much, Viper Scott. That's very kind of you. We've got 10. 10 is the goal, and they can be any flavour. So 99p if you wanna. So the UK already has high asylum grant rates. Ironically, the UK has been one of Europe's most generous in granting asylum since 2020. Labour may think that reducing long-term settlement options, not approval rates, can lower the pull factors. But also, Danish experts say that asylum seekers talk to each other. Denmark's unwelcoming reputation spread quickly. Labour may believe that the narrative alone can affect flows. I don't think this is going to work. I'd love to be proved. Actually, I don't want to be proved wrong. No one wants to be proved wrong. But I would, in this case, yeah, go on, prove me wrong, Labour. But I don't want to go through the process, to be honest with you. I don't want people to be miserable as a result of these ridiculous things that Labour are bringing in. And just like some clarification. We were talking about Labour saying they were going to steal people's jewellery off them when they got here. Where Mahmood, when she was talking in Parliament yesterday, she was saying, no, it's only if they've got enough money to buy like a new car or something. But also, I mean, let people work, make them pay for their own stuff. If they've got the money, make them pay for it. I get that, but that's a far cry from stealing people's rings off their fingers and knocking out the gold teeth when they arrive on the beach in Dover. Mon Harrow, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. We came for the rants, stayed for the confetti. Confetti! Anyway, so there's reasons why I can see why Labour finds this idea appealing. I can see that, but at the same time, a Danish-style system might not work in the UK because Britain is too big and too visible. Denmark's population is tiny and easy to manage administratively. The UK's scale and global links means flows can't be dialed down by simply, looking stern in press conferences. And again, Denmark tattles overstayers. It's a different issue, right? Britain's politics is dominated by boats. No one cares about the overstayers. No, I'm not seeing any flags in this area with stop the overstayers. They say stop the boats. And deterrence won't stop the overstayers. The UK hasn't published overstayer data since 2020. And half of refused asylum seekers can stay anyway because they can't be removed. So, offering them cash incentive to remove them might be a better way of dealing with it. But also, there's this fact as well. Britain's labour market needs migrants. Denmark can afford to be restrictive because of its welfare structure and population size. The UK's demographic crisis is far more severe. We have an ageing population, low birth rate, as I've said, NHS staffing shortages, and sectors reliant on foreign workers. A zero asylum aspiration, paradoxically, could worsen the labour crisis. And UK courts are more assertive, even if Labour, waters down the ECHR interpretation. Domestically, UK courts are far more adversarial than they are in Denmark, and legal challenges will be fiercer and take more time and cost more money. And public opinion isn't the same. Danes have historically supported strict immigration controls across all parties. British attitude is far more fractured. Far-right voters want harshness, but many of Labour's base strongly oppose it. And we've seen so many people say, like, that's it with Labour. I'm sick of them now. Labour members, Labour supporters, Labour activists are actively leaving the party. Mahmood risks demoralising Labour's progressive supporters without winning over any of the refuck voters. The point is, this is a high-risk strategy of Labour. This is an incredibly high-risk strategy because they're going after refuck voters at the expense of their core voters, and they might end up satisfying neither or alienating both. And then you've got the fact that Denmark has been their model has been condemned for violating international law. So that's happened. And the the UK, sorry, replicating assets, confiscation of harsh asylum seeker centres or extreme restrictions risks, not just the European Convention on Human Rights, which the British helped write, but also the Geneva Convention, which the British helped write. So yeah, the UK, unlike Denmark, also has its international reputation. It markets itself as an open, innovative, democratic, and a multicultural society. Copying Denmark undermines Britain's soft power around the world and international standing. Something I mentioned yesterday when I was talking about the restriction on visas that is that's coming from Namibia, Angola, and Democratic Republic of Congo. If they won't take back their asylum seekers that are trying to leave, they're going to restrict visas coming to the UK, which, I mean, okay, fair enough. I don't think there's too many visitors coming from the Democratic Republic of Congo. But there are a lot of people coming over from India. Are you going to restrict visas for Indians? In that respect, you're going to say no more Indian visas. I just can't see it happening, to be honest with you. I just can't see it working. And then, unless you take your asylum seekers back. And I'm sure, I'm not certain, but there's a good chance that India will just go, okay. And then we've got better alternatives. Like I've mentioned before, legal safe routes, expanded humanitarian visas. These reduce incentives for people to get into small leaky boats and make that dangerous 30-mile crossing across La Manche. The focus on overstayers, using up-to-date data instead of obsessing over small boats alone. Although, to be honest with you, there are ways of dealing with the small boats. As I've mentioned, they don't involve blowing them out the fucking water by the Navy or allowing people to drown, allowing children to drown in the icy cold waters of the English Channel. That is disgusting to me. And there was ways of stopping the boats without doing that. There's clever ways to stop the boats. And I keep saying there's a 3-step plan. Build a processing centre in Calais, open up safe routes so you can apply from anywhere to be an asylum seeker in the UK. And then the final one is rejoining the Dublin Agreement. And you know what? When we were part of the Dublin Agreement, it wasn't perfect. There were still people coming over here. And so, yeah, there might be some more things that we need to do. But there were no boats. If you want to deal with the dickheads in Refuck and Nigel Farage and all that, if you want to clip their wings, if you want to chop their balls off, what you want to do is stop the boats. And then Labour can go, look, we stopped the boats. Farage just stood there on the White Cliffs of Dover and went, look, pointed at people. That's all he did. We stopped them. We need more legal safe routes. We need a focus on overstayers. We need a Spanish-style long-term migration plan that acknowledges Britain's aging workforce and demographic, I keep saying that, demographic decline, regional asylum processing partnerships that respect international law rather than outsourcing cruelty. And I mean regional as in European-wide. And speeding up processing, which part of that is rejoining bloody Dublin. And speeding up processing time so people aren't stuck in limbo for years, which reduces costs and reduces the pull as well. And I don't endorse what Labour have done here. The only thing in there that I'm like, yes, good, is about opening up safe and legal routes, because they don't exist at the moment. The only way to get asylum in this country, unless you are Ukrainian or you are Hong Konger, is to step foot on British soil. Even if you are from Afghanistan and you helped British soldiers during the war over the last 20 years, that doesn't matter. Like some of them have managed to get over, but a lot of people will still have to, coming from Afghanistan of all places, will still have to get into a leaky boat to come over here or jump on the back of a truck. They want Labour are terrified of Refuck's UK political polling surge. They saw what happened in the local elections last May and what's going to happen next May in the local elections. Labour are going to get fucking decimated if they don't sort something out. This is why they want a quick political fix. They saw Denmark's electoral success and went, yes, we can copy that. But Britain is not Denmark. In population, geography, labour needs, legal framework, national identity. Very, very different kettles of fish. And copying Denmark might provide a short-term poll boost, but it risks long-term harm to Britain's values, economy, and our international reputation, which has taken a hell of a knock over recent years. So, look, you and I can understand Labour's thinking. We don't have to agree with it. But I think that the reality of the UK makes a Denmark-style model a very dangerous fit. So there you go. Graham, given how much the UK has pissed off the EU, I highly doubt the EU will be supportive in any way in any attempt to stem the small boats. No, Chris, I think they would. I think they would because I know it's all a quid pro quo, but Labour have, to give them some fucking credit, they have been a little bit better on how they their relationship, how they relate to their counterparts across Europe, changing things. So instead of having a talk about a trading relationship and political relationship every 5 years, which is what the Tories wanted, they've moved it now to 1 year, and every time we meet up, there's going to be some concessions. There's going to be somewhere we can meet in the middle about things, and that convergence is going to continue now for the rest of our fucking lives until we rejoin the EU. But yeah, I think that we often conflate our personal emotions of our own anger, upset, vendettas, personal vendettas we have against certain politicians, policies, parties. Whereas in the greater scheme of things, most people who aren't living here don't give a fuck. It's a harsh lesson for Americans to learn when they go traveling and they talk about how great America is. And there's people out there who barely know anything about America. They just don't care. It's not something that they think about every day. They think that people think about America every day. And if you're running a news channel and a news and politics channel on YouTube and Trump is in power, yes, we are going to end up talking about America in outsized amount. But Americans think that everyone thinks about America all the time around the world, and they don't. And same with Britain. We think that people are obsessed with us. They're not. They're getting on with their own lives. And if we want to do a deal with the EU, most EU leaders is just like, yeah, whatever. It's a new leadership now. They're not dealing with Boris Johnson, who they might have found personally repulsive, because he is absolutely repulsive. But yeah, there are a lot of pragmatic people in positions of power around the world, especially in the EU, which is a rules-based organization where they're not going to be, oh, well, we've got a vendetta against the UK, so we're not going to negotiate anything. This is an institution that's managed to negotiate incredibly favorable trade deals with countries all over the world for themselves in a way that the UK just simply hasn't. The trade deal that the EU got with Canada was great. The one that they got with Japan was great. The one that Britain got with Japan was shite. The one that Britain got with Canada was a carbon copy of the one that the EU had already negotiated. The one we got with Australia, as I keep banging on about, the fact that they're allowed to bring 20,000 tons of beef into this country every year, tariff-free. 20,000. How much beef are we allowed to sell them tariff-free? Nout. So yeah, I'll jump into the chat for a moment. Would love to hear Macron drop some policies out on the ether in his way out, processing Calais, Dublin, rejoin single market, etc. Start the debate. That would be good. Reminder, the 2016 referendum didn't cause hard Brexit. Not even Farage did. It was inflicted by a handful of politicians, May, Johnson, and now Starmer, who uphold it through his red lines. Well, the hard Brexit of the Tories is not the hard Brexit of Labour, but yeah, the red lines are. I understand why they did it, Nick. I get it, right? And I'm pissed off about it. I hate the fact that we live in this country where there were so many people who were just absolutely obsessed with Brexit for so long that it was the most important thing in the world. They loved Brexit more than they loved their own grandchildren, and they wanted the Brexit people, the billionaires who pushed it. They wanted them. They wanted Putin. They wanted Farage. They wanted all these gobshites like Wigmore and Banks and all that bunch of twats and lice. They wanted them to be happy. more than they wanted happiness of their own grandchildren or children. I mean, it's a disgrace, but Labour did not want the 2024 election to be about Brexit. They didn't want to talk about it. They wouldn't talk about it. They stubbornly refused to go anywhere near it. They wouldn't bring it up in debates. They would, if someone brought it up, they would deflect. They would change the subject for a good reason. They realised that Britain, first of all, it's sick of talking about Brexit, but secondly, there's still about 50% of the people out there who think Brexit was a fucking great idea, or it was just done badly. When the number of people who want to rejoin the EU is only 52% after all these years, I'm sorry, but I just get completely discouraged. We've got to wait until the population starts changing in its opinions. So there's a massive overall majority of people who absolutely 100% want to rejoin the EU. And until then, it's going to be very difficult. And it's going to be very difficult to sell something like being part of the single market, but not being part of the EU, because then that makes you, and this line will be in all of the newspapers the next day, Farage will be screaming it from the White Cliffs of Dover with his fucking megaphone, Steve Bray style, will be a rule taker without being a rule maker. Which I don't really have a problem with. I'd rather just join the single market and enjoy the extra £100 billion a year coming into our nation's coffers. Well, the economy, not the coffers, but into our economy. I'd welcome that. But you can see how the far right will use it to their advantage. Unfortunately, I was hoping that the 2029 election would be about closer ties with the EU and possibly bringing in this idea of, okay, we're going to look at joining a customs union, joining the single market, joining their single market. But as time goes by, I'm less and less inclined to believe that's going to happen. Because here's the thing. Nigel Farage should be dead. Not physically dead, although he does smoke. I'm talking about politically. He should be 6 feet under by now. He should be pushing up the daisies. He should have joined the political choir invisible. He should have shuffled off this mortal coil. He shouldn't be with us anymore as a politician. And don't forget, a lot of the people who are the architects of Brexit, like Gove and Johnson and Rees-Mogg and all these gobshites, Liz Truss, although she campaigned to remain, by the way. They're all out of politics now. They're all faffing around doing something else. But at the same time, Farage is there leading what is now, at the moment, Britain's largest political party in the polls. And while that is the case, I don't see how the EU is going to look at us. And this isn't about vendettas. It's not about them being pissed off with us in the past. They're going to look at us and go, oh my God, so many of them still, after everything that motherfucker has done to us, are still like, yeah, he's the best. They're putting up flags all over these villages around here to show how much they want to suck his dick. That's how much they fucking love the guy. They're not putting up those flags, by the way, to show that they love their country. They're putting it up to show how much they absolutely adore Nigel Farage. These are Farage flags. They want to show their support for refuck, and this is how they do it. This is how the refuckers signal to each other. It's like cats pissing, and they can smell each other's piss, and they know which cat's been there. Dogs do the same thing, That's what these flags are, territorial pissings, which is a great Nirvana song. Labour are just such a waste, which I've not voted for them in my entire life. I've always voted Green. Says Rooneyverse. That's a great name. Recall the day Patel said with glee we had done away with FOM. Oh, Mr. Tisk, 27. I was thinking about that the other day, and I got just unreasonably angry about that smug fucking tweet they put out, didn't they? With the Home Office insignia on it, saying, we've done away. We've done away with freedom of movement. There was no asterisks to say for you plebs, for you povos, for you hoi polloi, for the great unwashed. That's what they should have done. Little asterisks underneath for the great unwashed. because the neo-aristocracy, the privately educated, the rich hedge fund managers, the CEOs, the actors and the musicians and the politicians who went to private school and can afford to do those fun jobs, effective jobs that actually change things in life, they're not affected. They can go and live and work anywhere. Their freedom, they still have their freedom of movement. It was not taken from the people who took your freedom of movement. The great unwashed. That's what they call us. They look down on us. They piss on us. Not to mark their territory. Actually, no, they probably do. Yeah, that's what they're doing. Pissing on the rest of us to mark their territory. And these daft bastards, you know, tugging the forelock, doffing the cap, getting down on their knees. Like Trump. The thing about listening at 2 times speed is when you finally catch up live and it goes back to one time speed, Graham sounds like he's drunk. Who's Graham? Who's Graham? Who's this Graham person you speak of, Lee? Who is that? There's other Grahams on here, so I'm guessing you're talking about somebody else. But I'm the only one talking today. Don't know who that is. Anyway, so Tony says, I'm new to learning about politics. I'm shocked by the House of Commons where they all debate like a pantomime. They're all school children with the headmaster telling them off. Yeah, Tony, but Parliament's just weird, and they have these weird arcane rules, and it's all a hodgepodge of conventions and weird shit that they've built up over the years. But there are kind of weird reasons for these things. So, for instance, you can't call someone a liar. You can't use somebody's name. So you have to call them, if they're a parliamentarian, you have to call them the member for, and then the constituency that they are the member for. So they will never say Nigel Farage in Parliament unless they're quoting something that someone else said. They will say the member for Clacton. And you think, why the fuck is that? That's so stupid. And you can't call someone a liar, and you can't stand up and say you're lying. And it's to stop fights. That's it. Because back in the day, people get the fucking swords out and stab each other in there, you know. And it's like that's the plan. It's just to keep it all under some kind of decorum. Only one person can speak at a time. If you want to reply, you can't just interrupt the person who's speaking. You've got to stand up, and then if the speaker says, "Okay, go on," you can ask a question and goes back and forth. And it's all these mad conventions, but those same sort of conventions have been adopted in parliaments all over the world because it's a way of conducting a conversation about or a debate about a political issue, a particular issue. Sorry, I suppose they are political issues. Yeah, a particular issue without it descending into fisticuffs. So I understand why they do it. Why they do some of the other shit. So, like, for instance, in the House of Commons, they can't call the House of Lords the House of Lords, the upper chamber. They call it the other place. Just I don't know. It's just, yeah. But also they often start Parliament at weird times. I mean, it's better than it used to be. When I was a kid, Parliament didn't start till about 3:00 in the afternoon, right? And then it would go on till as long as the debate lasted. So you'd have debates going on till 1:00, 2:00 in the morning. Which meant if you were a primary caregiver, no chance of becoming an MP. And that's why for a long time it was stacked against not just against women, but men who couldn't afford to, live that kind of life where you can stay out till 1:00 in the morning. Also in Parliament, they've got, 17 bars? How many bars are there in Parliament? Which are unbelievably subsidised by you and I. How many bars in Palace of Westminster? There are at least 2 bars. No, they've got more than that. They have got more than that. 9 bars. There's 9 bars, apparently. According to this, there's only 4 bars. Oh, there used to be like 20 of them, didn't they? The Strangers Bar is the famous one. St. Stephen's Tavern, that's not part of Westminster. Go away, AI overview. You're talking shite. Go home, you're drunk. What are Parliament's bars really like? The closure of the St. Stranger's Bar in the House of Commons while an alleged spiking incident is investigated has thrown the spotlight on Westminster's drinking culture. What goes on in its many watering holes. Drink is part of the fabric of the place. Blah, blah, blah. Called the social... Blah, 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 blah. Sorry, I'm just trying to find it. Yeah, so in the House of Lords, you can get a pint of House of Lords lager for £4.30 in the Stranger's Bar in Parliament, okay? Subsidised. So let's get this straight for everyone watching. So when you pay your tax, a small fraction of that tax, maybe just 0.0000001%, but a small fraction nonetheless of that tax, is going towards a subsidy for a pint of lager for Nigel Farage to drink. Nigel Farage, who has earned £1.5 million on side hustles since becoming an MP. And we're subsidising his fucking beer. This is a man who wants to make it so young people have to work for £2 an hour. Because, when you're young, you pay less rent, right? You pay less for your electricity. I know that. You get a discount. You get a young person's discount, don't you? On your lecky. Isn't that right? You don't pay as much, do you? To keep your house warm. You pay less for your food. You go to the supermarket, you get out your young person's pass, and they say, "Oh, we'll take a third off because we know you can only earn £2 an hour, so we'll take that." Oh no, actually, no. I'm talking bollocks, aren't I? Yeah, it's the same price, isn't it? But whatever, we'll pay them fuck all, and then people who are in their 40s will get the sack because these companies can just employ people who are 18 years old, and you have to pay them £2 an hour. Great. Who do you think our Amazon drivers are going to be? Yeah. 0.00001% of our tax being used to subsidise alcohol for MPs is still too much. Yeah, it's ridiculous. These people, even if they're not doing £1.5 million worth of side hustles like Nigel Farage does, they're earning 80, 90 grand a year. That is a ridiculous sum of money. What the fuck? And they get free train travel, first class, which we subsidise as well. What the fuck? First class on a train in this country is a fucking joke. You sit in a carriage and you have a slightly bigger chair and you get a beer. That's it. And the cost is twice as much. Bring a cushion and buy a bottle of Stella off the person pushing the cart. Or go to the buffet. You save yourself 150 quid. 300 quid it is for a first class ticket from Durham to London. Let's have a look. How much? We're going to look it up live. So how much for a first class ticket? So how much does it cost to get our MP here in Durham to London? Come on, train line. Why is this taking so long? Oh, it's because my phone's a bit old. It's doing that thing, where phone's a few years old. It's like, let's get really slow now, so you have to buy a new phone. Planned obsolescence. It fucks me off. It really does. Durham to London. Go. Okay, done. London, any. Today, now. Let's have a look. Best price guarantee. £74 one way. Oh shit! No! Don't go to payment. Why is it going straight to payment? I don't want the. I want to get first class. How do I get first class? It's not letting me. It's just going straight to payment. What the hell? Advanced single. E-tickets. So, okay. So, view more tickets. Right, here we go. Okay. So, wow. First class ticket. This is one way, ladies and gentlemen. £137. One way. So when politicians go to the House of Commons, which they have to do every week, at least once, when they go down to London from anywhere in the country, they get a first class train ticket and it's paid for by you. And the money up to this point, up to when these places, the LNER is now nationalised, but before then, the money for that first class ticket was going to the private companies with shareholders who owned those train lines. And a lot of cases, the train lines were owned, or the train operators, sorry, the train operating companies were owned, or still are owned in some cases, by SNCF of France, or Deutsche Bahn of Germany, or by the nationalised, train companies of Belgium, or Netherlands, or Switzerland, or Spain, or Italy, right? And so, not just when we buy a ticket to get on these buses, when we get on these trains, was subsidising their cheap travel. Our taxes that are paying MPs' expenses were being given to these private companies to reduce the cost of fares in other people's countries. Don't forget, a lot of our train lines the train operating companies have been nationalised for years. It's just the wrong nation owns them. And, that's tremendously nice of the British people to give all that money to foreign companies, foreign nationalised train operators. But when you get people like Mick Lynch saying, you can't nationalise the trains while we're part of the EU, which was absolute nonsense, Mick. You're talking absolute bollocks. I like Nick Lynch in some cases, but in that particular case of the RMT union being pro-Brexit nutters, I'm like, fuck off, mate. Stop lying to people. Stop gaslighting people. We could totally take things under nationalised control without leaving the EU. A lot of other countries have. There you go. £4.20 for a pint, and that's subsidised. Fuck me, says Pete Van der Keyp. Yeah, it's £6.50 for a pint now. That's Farage. That's the Farage tax. Farage has made it so that pints cost 3 times as much as they used to before we left the EU. Peter, that's a £96,000 salary. It's due to hit £100,000 next year. Plus those expenses, which I've just got into. Maybe Fromage wants to keep the students out of paying back the huge loans by giving them less money. See, it works out. I'm mental, by the way. Lee says, I worked as a contractor at offices of a recently privatised electricity company back in the 90s, and they had the subsidised cafe, bar, and bowling green. Subsidised. I got a full English on a first class journey. Ooh. Was it any good though, the chips? Because I always imagine that, like, if you got a full English on a plane, if you flew first class on a plane and got a full English, it just wouldn't be right, would it? Wouldn't be as good as you get at the Greasy Spoon Cafe. 60 quid from Doncaster to Newcastle, first class. I looked into it last time I was heading north. Jesus. And that's like 60 quid. That's more than I earn in a day. To go from Doncaster to Newcastle. I guess then you'd have to go back, wouldn't you? Bloody hell. I've travelled first class to London many times. You appreciate it on the red eye 6 a.m. train. You get breakfast and unlimited coffee. Return in the evening and you get as many beers / wine as you want. Yeah, Martin, but I don't want to subsidise it. If you've got the money for it, great, go with God. But I do not want to be subsidising that for the private train companies. And the train operating companies do not own their rail tracks. That's National Rail, who they pay lease to use. Yeah, I know. Sorry, I meant the train operators, like the actual people who own the roll. No, actually, they don't even own the fucking rolling stock. That's another fucking company. They just lease the rolling stock to run the. And at every stage, the shareholders are like, fuck yeah, making money. And Mr. Adventure Logger says, these are incredibly naive arguments. Okay, right. If you say so. GWR had a January sale this year. A single from Hereford to London Paddington was £8 standard class and £15 for a first. Might be worth watching for next January sale. That's good, except I don't live in Hereford. Last mission, I think Farage is the tipping point now. He'll become irrelevant soon, but what he's done to the country is unforgivable. I'm hoping that will happen. One Angry Pagan says, first class train ticket from Paddington, South Devon to Liverpool. I'll probably pronounced that wrong, sorry. To Liverpool Central, £447. Lee says, railways are subsidised 80% even when privatised. Why should private companies cream the profits off the top of that? Yeah, exactly, Lee. but also the fact that it's subsidizing cheap travel in Germany. Like, fuck off. I like Germany. I like Germans, you know? I mean, they're a little bit rude. Not all of them, not all Germans, but, you know, a little bit quite say it like it is, even if it's really hurtful. They do that. And they say, this party is not pleasing me. I'm leaving now. You know, which is sometimes a bit hard to take when you're having a good time. But yeah, just saying, I don't have any problem with Germany. You know, I've traveled all over Germany. I love it. It's a great place, you know. I've met some really lovely people from Germany. But I don't want to be subsidizing their fucking train travel. I'm just sorry, but we've got enough problems in this bloody country. Especially when it's like £3 to get to town on the bus. A 10-minute fucking journey at £3. There and £3 back. Paynton, sorry. What did I say? Paddington? Paddington Bear. Even worse, once the TOCs are fully nationalised, we'll still be paying the private leasing companies for the trains. Yeah, exactly, Lee. We're still paying for the... Yeah. And now with the racism, nice racism against Germans. I didn't know Germans were a race. That was Hitler's. That was Hitler's line. He thought the Germans were a race. He thought they were the super race. I don't. The train travel in the UK is mental. Took the train to Sweden, 200 kilometers, 3 hours for less than £3. Yeah. Well, you talking to the guy who's been to every country in the world on public transport. So, yeah, I appreciate how mental it is that we have to pay so much to travel anywhere on a train. Like, how can it be cheaper to hire a car, fill the car with petrol, insure it, fucking tax it, fucking drive it, pay your fucking premium, pay your excess, and then drive it to the destination and then drive it all the way back? How can that be cheaper than getting on the train, especially as a family? It is Oscar. It is. Who's Oscar? I used to get 3 train journeys a year as a Virgin Trains former employee until Avanti took over, and then I lost it. I says, Chris, that's annoying. I had a soft spot for the Virgin Trains just because on my birthday one year, a couple of years they did this on Global Scouse Day. They served scouse on the train to Liverpool. So if you've got the train to Liverpool on February 28th, you could get scouse on the train. And also they gave out free scouse to homeless people in Liverpool, which was nice. There you go, nice little birthday treat for me. If you want to help people, make a day. Racism is racism if directed at a nationality. Do you not speak English? You need a question mark at the end of that if that's a question, Mr. Adventure Logger. Do you not speak English? Racism is racism if directed at a nationality. Is it? I don't know. I did say a lot of very good friends of mine are German. I did celebrate the fact that I do like Germany, and you know I've travelled there a lot and travelled all over Germany. I do really like the place, but my point was, I don't think we should be subsidising their railways. Is this a hard point to get across? I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm talking German. Maybe that's why you don't understand what I'm saying. The words coming out of my face. But yeah, I'd say the same thing about any other nationality around the world that's not British. I don't see why we should be subsidising their railways. Does anyone else think that's unreasonable? Can we subsidise the railways maybe in countries that are developing? That aren't a bigger economy than us, a richer country than us? Why are we subsidising their railways when we could be subsidising the railways of countries that we fucked in the past? Which is most of them. But you know, never mind. We're going to see snow in Durham this week. I think so, Sarah. I think we're going to be getting snow. But yes, it should be. I like the snow, but then again, I work from home, so you know. Should we go over to the papers? And we've got a Keir Starmer exclusive on the front cover of the Mirror. I'll lead Labour at next election. Will you, Keir? Will you? I don't know, mate. Maybe. And then we've got nearly half of all Labour voters want Starmer out by the next election. I love the juxtaposition between those two headlines. I'll lead Labour in the next election. Nearly half of Labour voters want Starmer out by next election. Okay. And then families face deportation in asylum law shake-up, which we talked about this morning. And we have Dakota Johnson, Jennifer Lawrence, and Emma Stone at the Governor's Awards. Governor's Awards? In Los Angeles. where Tom Cruise received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the. He won an Oscar. He won an Oscar. He's been nominated 4 times. He's never won, but he's won an honorary Oscar. I think they gave one of them to Charlie Chaplin. You know, after the Red Scare, after the McCarthy witch hunts, and he got handed out the country. Charlie Chaplin, who founded United Artists, the studio in Hollywood, the guy who basically made Hollywood what it was, arguably in the 1920s and 30s. The guy who made the great, well, not just City Lights and the Gold Rush, but also The Great Dictator, one of the best anti-fash movies ever made. But yeah, apparently he was a bit too communist for them, so they kicked him out of the country. He spent most of the rest of his life in Switzerland, and he came back in the 70s and was given an honorary Oscar, given an honorary gong. He said, "Oh, sorry about chucking you out of the country," Anyway, but then again, Charlie Chaplin didn't he marry a 13-year-old or something? So can't win, can you? Don't put anyone on a pedestal. They'll turn out to be a creep. Daily Mail here, the Black Mail, the Black Friday sale, sorry. They get the Daily Mail on your tablet or mobile. I'd rather die. Racist abuse means I know broken asylum system must be fixed. And this is about Home Secretary saying a racial slur and swearing in Parliament yesterday. So you can say that, but you can't say that Nigel Farage is a fucking liar. Which he is. Which is why. Do you remember when Johnson got kicked out? Do you remember that? And I think it was Dawn Butler. Was it Dawn Butler who was kicked out of Parliament for calling him a liar? She was suspended for a couple of days for calling him a liar. And then once he was actually kicked out as an MP, she stood up and went, "I just want to say on the record that Boris Johnson is a liar." Because he wasn't a politician anymore. He wasn't an MP. You could say that about him. That was really nice. Anyway, so steps in the right direction, but is asylum plan doomed to fail? Kemi Badenoch has urged Shabana Mahmood to work with her in the national interest to end the asylum crisis and defeat a growing Labour revolt. And Pierce Brosnan wants to return as James Bond. Okay, and then we've got because he. Roger Moore just wasn't old enough in A View to a Kill. He was like 65. And he was romancing Grace Jones, who was, 20 at the time? Anyway, Mahmood turned blue in blast at Liberals. And then poison pill in Telegraph deal may lumber paper with debt. Oh, yes. This is about the Daily Telegraph here on the left of the page. It's getting sold. And one of the deals that they had has fallen through. And they're having torrid time of it. I'm really hoping that the paper is lumbered with debt and it ends up folding because, papers fold. You can fold them. Yeah. Anyway, so, it's not one of my favourite papers, the Daily Telegraph, by any stretch of the imagination. Not that I have a favourite paper. I think they're all pretty shit. Farage unveils £25 billion plan for Reeves to fill budget shortfall. Rachel Reeves should cut the foreign aid budget to fill the hole in public finances. Nigel Farage will stay today. Of course he will. Because he doesn't want to take any responsibility for anything that, was done by this country or done by himself. And I've said this so many times. You cut the foreign aid budget in these countries. You take away US aid. You take away the charities. And what happens is you end up with more instability. More instability means more war, more violence, more threats of violence, which means more refugees. What does Nigel Farage want more than anything else in this life? More refugees to come here. Because the refugees that come here give him more power, because refugees make people scared, especially when you have a demagogue like Farage standing up and going, "I'm a twat, well, look at it, listen to me," and making people think with their fear caps on, and when people are afraid, they make lousy fucking decisions. Fear is an enemy to logic. Make no mistake. Viper Scott's getting off. See you later, Alistair. Stay safe. Have a good night, day, wherever you are. If we do want to get confetti, we've only got 10 minutes left. Ooh, that hour went fast, didn't it? But there you go. She said she was used to be called. Yeah, I know what she said. I can't read that out, mate. Pagan, it was the ultimate racial slur you can guess. Is someone asking what it was? What did she say? Yeah, obviously I can't say it. But yeah, look it up. I think it's been explained in the chat. But yeah. Hannah Twigs, the food that could be ruining your sleep and how to fix it. Okay, cool. And then we've got Trump's dramatic U-turn on Epstein. Release the files, because he knows he'll get away with it. He knows he'll get away with it. Although, I was talking recently about the communist, the dot-com bubble bursting. Oh, sorry, the AI bubble, as they call it these days. Yeah. So there has been a bit of a sell-off today. We've got the broadest index of Asia Pacific shares outside Japan has lost 1.8%, slipping to its lowest level since mid-October. South Korea's Kospi has lost 3.5%, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng is down 1.9%. The Nikkei 225 in Japan is also having a rough day, down over 3%. And last night, US stock market fell with the S&P share index closing its lowest level in a month. Is the AI bubble about to burst? Maybe. And if it does, it's going to drag a lot of other stocks down with it. Don't forget the boom that they've been having in the share market in America this year has been fueled by this absolutely demented, in my opinion, race towards this AI future, which isn't all that. AI makes mistakes all the time. It is quite limited in its capabilities. Stuff that's written by AI is really obviously written by AI. I'm sure you know that the descriptions for these videos are written by AI. I just go, this is what I'm talking about. Here's an article about it. Spit me something out, and it spits it out. It's shit, but it's okay. It's passable. I wouldn't put it in if I was, sitting for an exam or anything or being assessed, because it doesn't write like a human. And it's really obvious to once you know what to look for, it is really fucking obvious what to look for. But yeah, I just find it absolutely remarkable that these idiots in charge have spent so much money investing in AI when it looks like it is a meme stock. It's acting like a meme stock, and at some point, I think that the bubble's going to burst. I really do. And it might be this week. And that, my friends, is what I think is going to bring down Trump. Not the Epstein papers. I don't care what's in there. Well, I do care what's in there, but his followers will not be affected by it. It doesn't matter what's in there. They won't care. You've actually seen in the last few days right-wing commentators in America making justifications for pedophilia. You're not going to get through to these people unless they lose everything and they end up destitute on the streets, like the two rich guys in trading places and coming to America, where they have a cameo. A cameo. Right, so we have got AI represents 40% of their total economy, says Daylight M, who has been a member for 8 months. Welcome. Thank you, Daylight M. You're fucking awesome. We've only got 5 minutes now to get some more super chats in. I'll tell you what, if we get to 5 super chats, I'll do some confetti if someone wants to put some in, but you've got to be quick. Otherwise, you won't get any confetti. But I'll make it so. I'll make it so. More breaking news. Badenoch says Labour is raising taxes in budget to pay for Starmer's weaknesses on welfare cuts. No, it's not a weakness. It's not a weakness. Helping people who are less fortunate than yourself is not a weakness. It is a strength. You want to go in a room and find out in that room who the smartest, most intelligent person is in that room. Find the one with the most compassion. Find the one that wants to help the most. That'll be the most intelligent every fucking time. The person who wants to help the least will also be the most stupid. Anyway. Oh, a weird thing just happened then on my screen, but it's okay. We still seem to be streaming. We're still streaming, right? You can still hear me. I'm still here. Right. We've got, we have Rennie Zellweger, the star of Bridget Jones in Leicester Square yesterday. Apparently, a statue of Bridget Jones has been unveiled. Cool. Okay. I don't mind. And then we've got the iPaper over here saying, Tories pledge to help the Home Secretary get a migration crackdown past angry Labour rebels. Oh my God. Could you imagine the Tories voting? Oh, welcome. Sorry, that's not supposed to come up. Can you imagine the Tories voting with Labour to get that through? No, please no. Yay, Bumble. Thank you very much for the £3 super chat. Woohoo. Thank you, Bumble. We need 2 more now. 2 more, and we will have confetti. We will have our confetti in this life or the next. And then we are going to go back to the newspaper here. New 2,500 grants, that pound grant to a heat pump air con combos. Right? Okay, can we talk about this for a moment? They only cost £5,000. I mean, it's a lot of money. Fuck me. But yeah, £5,000 can get you a combo heat pump and aircon, right, unit. And so the government grant will pay for half of that. And this is the first time the government's given us something to make things cooler in the summer. Because Britain doesn't use much aircon because we never had that hot summers. But summers are going to get hotter and hotter. We keep hearing about this summer was the hottest summer on record. Yep. Until next year. But yes, so there you go. Places around me are underwater, says Frank, which is not good. No, that is not good. And that is one of the reasons why we need to tackle climate change and lead the world. Lead the world for once. Let's lead the world instead of, Nigel, what's his name? Not Nigel Farage, the other fucking prick. What's his name? Boris Johnson. He always went on about being world beating. World beating, we're going to do world beating. We're going to beat the world. Beat the world with a stick. And great, well done. We've beaten the world. That'll show them. I don't want to beat the world. I want to lead the world. I want to lead the world in on our path of righteousness and goodness, and saying that we shouldn't subsidize German railways, which apparently is racist now. I hear you're a racist now, Graham. Blah blah CW. Thank you very much for the £1 super chat. It's very kind of you. One more, and we will have confetti. We will all have confetti. YouTube AI videos are becoming annoying, says Frank. You're not wrong, mate. You're not wrong. I'm staying here in Lush Green, South Devon. I've never been to Lush. This is mine home, says one angry. I'd like to go to Lush. It sounds lush. Pete, it's best to bat away this midge. What? Poor Scots, they have midges in the summer, then rain when the midges come out. Ooh. Yeah. Oh, yes, we've done it. Chris C, thank you very much for the £1 super chat. We've made it. We have got our confetti. Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you very much, Chris. And Blabba and Bumble B99. Thank you. You're very kind. And yeah, we did it. We got to confetti. We got to confetti time. Anyway, stop. Confetti time. Okay, so Starmer faces Labour revolt over hardline asylum plans, it says on the front cover of The Guardian here. Apparently, big bows are suddenly everywhere. Big bows. Good old big bows. And then reselling event tickets for profit to be outlawed. That should be the main news story. Or they should have announced that at a different time. But Labour are shit comms, so they announced it at the same time they announced all this stuff about immigration. Like, they slipped it in under the radar, like it would be really unpopular. Like, everyone would go, oh, shit, I like paying 10 times the fucking cover price for a gig. By the way, talking of gigs, I'm going to a gig tonight, so there's going to be no Geoscope with Ollie, I'm afraid. Sorry. We will reschedule for maybe later in the week. But no Geoscope tonight, I'm afraid. Sorry. So I'm giving you a bit of a bumper show today. Feeling nice like that. Anyway, or this morning, I should say. And then we've got Sydney Sweeney, who is a racist. So there you go. She brags about her genes being blue-eyed and blonde-haired. And Bet You Star wins. Oh, whatever, Star. And then we've got the Financial Times, which is the only sensible newspaper, if you think about it. It's kind of sensible. Which is, Here we've got Tokyo trip, Beijing tension, dense tourism. Something that we learned yesterday is that Trump is begging people to buy tickets for the Round Ball World Cup next year, a part of which is being held in America, but no one's going to turn up because they're going to check your fucking phone. They're gonna check your phone, read through all your messages, like a a possessive boyfriend. Who's this person that you're saying you love? Mum. Who's this mum person? Scroll through all your messages. Scroll through all your social media. See if you liked something. See if you watched this video. Oh, I see you watched a video 8 months ago of Graham Hughes, and he thinks that Trump is a big fat twat. So we're afraid we're going to have to deport you. But before we deport you, we're going to hold you in a detention cell. 48 hours or so, maybe for 48 months. Who knows? We can do whatever the fuck we like because you've come to our country, you daft bastard. Yeah, so Trump's like, please, we'll give you cheaper visas if you come to our round ball matches. Yeah, good luck with that, you fucking gobshites. Can't believe how the gambling industry is not going to be subjected to any tax rises. How corrupt is the UK right now? Chris, we don't know yet. We don't know until the actual budget is announced on the 26th. But I'll tell you now, mate, if that is the case, and they do that, then, or don't do that, I suppose, in the case of taxing the gambling industry, I will, I promise, go off on one. I will, yeah? Just remind me at the time. Nick's giving us a Sydney Sweeney klaxon, yeah. I met her a couple of months ago when she was in Vancouver. I said I was very, very tempted to say, I hear you're a racist now, Sydney. But I thought better of it. Ban on resale of tickets over face value and crackdown on industrial scale touts. Yes! Front page news of the Financial Times, which is where it should be. Ministers plan legislation change. Oasis row spurs action. Music and sports fans set for savings. Fuck yes. Thank you. And then we've got UBS and Bessent discuss shift to US if Swiss tighten capital regulation. UBS Chair Colm Kelleher and US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent have privately discussed moving the bank's headquarters to the US as the Zurich-based lender explores plans to leave Switzerland if the government does not back down on new capital rules. UBS, tell you what, fuck off. And also, I hope you do move to America. And then I hope that, Trump isn't with us anymore in a few years' time and the Democrats get back in and the first thing they do is tighten up regulations on your fucking bank. And then you've got nowhere to go. That's what I hope. Bastards. She keeps abreast of politics. Very good. Tony, that's a tricky one because they're all terrible currently. And that I will definitely tune in to watch Graham. Oh, cool. So it's Wednesday, November the 26th. Okay. And I think that the budget will come in after PMQs. Is that right? I think that's about right. So it's PMQs and then the budget. So we'll be getting that. We'll do a watch party. We can be tortured together, my friends, and go, what the fuck? Daylight M says, I've just seen a poster for Britain. Love it. Britain. I love that. I'm gonna write that down. Britain. Maybe I should make a little animation. It says Britain and pop up with loads of confetti. Tell you, it's a tricky one because they're all terrible currently. They're all terrible. They're all shit. I was in music chat curious if there was election night now. Who out of the awful people would bunch of people back? So Tony, for me personally, and you're going to hate me for saying this, but I would vote for Labour. Not because I think they're doing a good job. I make it very clear on a daily basis. I do not think they're doing a good job. But just because my MP, Mary Kelly Foy is actually her name. She is a really good MP. As a local MP, she looks after us. She always responds to messages and to emails. And she's on it. And she was one of the rebels who told the Labour leadership to go sling their hook when they wanted to take PIP away from disabled people. She said, no, you're not doing that. So yeah, I would vote for her. Locally, we had an election this year here in Durham, and I voted for the Greens. Thankfully, we have now got 2 Green councillors where I live, but the rest of Durham is pretty much all awash with that sort of tealy colour, the refuck fuckers colour. We've got refuck everywhere here, and we have a majority refuck council, and they are so shit at their job, it's actually genuinely painful. You've got over 50 people who have never been in politics before, don't know what the fuck they're doing. The guy who is in charge of the council here is the last business he had wound up owing his creditors and the taxman over £1 million. Yeah. And our deputy leader is Darren Grimes. Darren Grimes, crafty wank, you know. He's our deputy leader. Yeah. So I want to stop that happening elsewhere. So I will say what I said in the 2024 elections. Please vote for the people most likely to vote to beat the horrible candidate. And so in most constituencies, that might be Labour. It might be Greens where you are. It might be Lib Dem. It might be Plaid Cymru. It might be the SNP up in Scotland. Yeah, vote for them. Just make sure that it's the party that's most likely to beat the fuckers, the fash. You got to beat the fash. Got to beat them into submission. So yeah, I don't think there's one size fits all for this country. Not under first past the post anyway. Peter Thiel sold all his shares in Nvidia yesterday. Ooh, Diz. Okay, well that's interesting. There's one thing that I think will actually affect Trump. It will be it won't be the stuff that's coming out in the pedophiles. It will be the economy collapsing, the American economy collapsing, and a new Great Depression in America with the homeless people clogging up Central Park. You know, people living in tents. A winter of discontent in America with millions of people out of work, millions of people starving. You know, having to rob food to keep themselves alive, to keep their families alive. The Trump has built a house of cards to himself, and if all that falls apart, he is fucked. He is beyond fucked. But also, what's a bit shit is that it's actually going to affect the rest of us, and that's my problem with it. Like, you know, America, was it if America sneezes, Europe catches a cold? Like the American economy will have a knock-on effect to the economy for the rest of us, which is so annoying that we haven't insulated ourselves effectively. 2 ways we can insulate ourselves from the fallout from America. One is by remaining in the fucking European Union, which we should have done. And the other one is having complete energy self-sufficiency and not relying on the global markets for oil and gas and coal to keep ourselves warm over this winter, which we have to do at the moment because a lot of our electricity needs are delivered by gas. A lot of our heating needs are delivered by gas still. Graham, did you get an invite to meet with Ed Davey with Miss Kelly Foy at the plaque unveiling yesterday? It looks something special. No. Well, I might have done. I don't know. I've been terrible for responding to messages at the moment. I've got a stack of people who are waiting to hear from me. I'm really sorry. But yeah, generally speaking, if there's a thing going on in Durham, I'm part of the Labour group here. I'm part of a WhatsApp group, which includes Mary. So I tend to find out about stuff. But if I was invited, I didn't notice. So I'm just going to say I wasn't invited. But yeah, that's my problem. It's why I keep an eye on the US. Well, yeah, we have to. And one angry pagan says Corbyn is a damn squib. Yeah, could have told you that 10 years ago, mate. Pete, nice bikes. I'm jealous. I've got a hybrid home, built Frankenstein half maxi scooter underneath for storage with a petrol tank and external fairing off sports bike. It's funny. So Tony, oh, cool shit. Put it together. Okay, so I am gonna head off now into the good night. I will be back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. We've got a packed day tomorrow. We've got Prime Minister's questions at 12. We have got the rabbit hole at 6. So please join us. 9, 12, 6. Like a shit clock. I'll be around all day. yeah, until then, I just want to say thank you very much for watching. Thanks for keeping it moderately civil in the chat. And I don't think we've had to kick anyone out, have we? Thanks to my mods for keeping it civil. Thanks for the super chats. And I just want to say, have a great rest of the day. Stay warm, stay well fed, and find something that you enjoy. Fucking do it. As long as it's not hurting somebody else. Please don't go around murdering people with a hammer, okay? Just don't do that. All right. That's today. Just try not to do it. But enjoy the rest of your day and as best you can. And I will see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock, I hope. And until then, I'll say, please give us a like on the way out. We always like a like. And until next time, hello, good evening, welcome, and Auf Wiedersehen!